what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the A-Pod. Fun chats, fun topics, fun people here on MSGNetworks.com and on iTunes. I'm your host, Arda, Ocal, and it's been another great week. Thank you very much for checking out the podcast. Thank you very much for subscribing on iTunes and Google Play and wherever else this podcast is posted. And thank you for leaving a 5-star review and a comment on iTunes. That helps their internal backstage algorithm so that other people can find the podcast. So that is very important to us, and that is much appreciated. So what happened this week? The second round of the playoffs were determined. We now know that the New York Rangers are moving on. And I was there for 2 of the 3 home games in the first round. And the atmosphere was much, much different in Game 3 versus Game 6. Game 6, it was like night and day. Game 3, I felt like a lot of people were happy to be in the building, but then they sort of sat on their hands for the game. But that changed in Game 6 when it was, maybe it was the fact that it was an elimination game. Maybe it was the fact that the fans were happy with the Rangers' play. They had a fantastic overtime in Montreal in Game 5. They came back to MSG. They could close out the series, and the place was buzzing. And it started with the national anthem. That was one of the more spectacular sights and sounds that I've seen at a hockey game this year, in the last several years. It was awesome. It was definitely Stanley Cup final quality atmosphere in that building. And when the Canadiens scored, the crowd dulled for sure. But then all it took was one big hit, and they were right back into it. And then when the Rangers tied it up in the second period and took the lead, and the place exploded, and it was just a terrific atmosphere. That's the kind of vibe that you want in a playoff barn, you know? A little coffee there, a little podcast juice, if you will. And so when the Rangers won, that passion spilled out on the streets. I mean, I posted some videos on my Twitter account at Arda Ocal TV. People were still singing and chanting on the streets, and the passion was absolutely contagious. It was really fun, and it didn't actually start at MSG. The passion and the fandom started at Rangers Town Square. As you may know from listening to the last podcast, I'm basically hosting several days at Rangers Town Square. Alumni are coming through. We're doing interviews with alumni. This past Sunday, actually, we did a lot of giveaways because the junior Rangers were in the house, so that was a lot of fun. And you could tell people just love their Rangers, and all different eras too. I saw a lot of retro jerseys, and it was really cool. And the people were really knowledgeable. We did some trivia contests, and people were pretty knowledgeable. Some of them were not so much. Others definitely knowledgeable. So we got a kick out of that. But definitely the passion is existing here, and hopefully we have some really fun stuff planned for you in the second round. So definitely keep up on Twitter if you're a Rangers fan in New York City and you want to be involved in all the hype. Definitely keep checking Twitter, because I believe there will be some announcements regarding Rangers Town Square and some of the other activities that will be going on throughout the playoffs as the New York Rangers battle their way to the Stanley Cup. So yeah, that was cool. And my Arda's Words on a blog this Monday is all about playoff atmosphere. So I give a tip of the cap to 3 specific hockey markets, or 3 specific playoff teams that were playoff teams in the first round, may or may not be playoff teams in the second round. You're going to have to read the blog to find out, okay? Anyway, the blog is posted at MSGNetworks.com. Thank you very much for checking it out. So round 2 is Caps and Pens, Ducks and Oilers, Sens and Rangers, and Preds and Blues. And Caps and Pens is the one that I definitely have my eyes on. I think a lot of the hockey world have their eyes on that one. The Washington Capitals had a hell of a series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The youngsters, the kids are all right. Even the Washington Capitals tweeted that after the series was over. And an interesting thought, I was listening to the Toronto feed, and Joe Bowen, who is a legendary broadcaster, play-by-play guy in Toronto, when this series was over, when the Toronto Maple Leafs lost in overtime, which, by the way, was the 5th overtime, and I think that tied the record, he said that he believes that this series, and in particular the Toronto Maple Leafs, stole the Stanley Cup away from Washington. So this is what he said after. That's exactly his words after the series was over. He believes that the Toronto Maple Leafs, through this series and through the arduous, grueling series that Washington had in the first round, Washington may not have enough in the tank left to get all the way to the Stanley Cup or win the Stanley Cup in the finals. So that was according to Joe Bowen. 30-plus year. I think he just hit his 3,000th game, actually, this season, which is quite a feat. So that's interesting to think. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case, but definitely the Moby Dick Captain Ahab situation has arrived yet again. The Pittsburgh Penguins having the Capitals' number all through the playoffs, and here they are again. If this is truly the year the Washington Capitals are supposed to win the Stanley Cup, then for them to do it at the expense of Pittsburgh, to go through Pittsburgh to win the Stanley Cup and to finally defeat them in the playoffs would be poetic justice for the Washington Capitals. So definitely looking forward to that. Something else I've been looking forward to for a while is the Tribeca Film Festival, which is going on in the city right now. Lots of celebrities all around town. Red carpets abound. There are a lot of screenings. One thing that I did do on Sunday, I have several things coming up with Tribeca, but one of the things that I did this past weekend was attend a talk led by Michael Strahan. He was the moderator with Kobe Bryant, recently retired. Black Mamba, Kobe Bryant, has shifted gears. He created, along with famous artist Glenn Keane, pardon me, his name escaped me there for a second. Glenn Keane is the son of Bill Keane, and Bill Keane is the creator of Family Circus. And my mind just exploded when I heard this at the talk. I even sent out a cheeky tweet. I said, I can't believe I came here simply to hear stories from the son of the man who created Family Circus. Oh yeah, the Family Circus comic in the newspapers back in the day. Man, that was hilarious. They're like the corniest dad jokes ever in Family Circus. Anyway, so the reason they were all there was Kobe Bryant and company, including Glenn Keane and I think John Williams is his name, the composer of Star Wars. They all got together and created a short called Dear Basketball. Kobe Bryant wrote a poem when he retired called Dear Basketball, and so they created an animation and a nice score to go along with it. Very touching. It was very cute. It was really cool. I definitely suggest checking it out. It's heartwarming. You can tell Kobe Bryant loved basketball, but in listening to this talk, you can definitely tell that Kobe Bryant has already moved on, and in fact, it sounded like he moved on during his last season. It sounded like he was just done with basketball. He seems at peace, though. He seems very happy with what's coming up next. He doesn't want to try coaching. He doesn't want to try commentary. I think that his life is going to be very much on the business end of things, investments, whatever it may be. He even said that he wanted to check out a basketball game. I guess somebody in the league had texted him to check out his play and give him some critiques, and he didn't even have the NBA package on his cable. It said, call your subscriber. So that just goes to show you where his head is at in terms of basketball. And you know what? This happens all the time with athletes, of course. There's a lot of former NHL players that I talk to that say, I have not put on the skates and I refuse to put on the skates as soon as my career is over. I did it for my entire life. I did it for my job when I was playing in the NHL. And when my time is over in hockey, I don't want to do the alumni circuit. I don't want to put on the skates anymore. I am done. And I think that's how Kobe Bryant feels. I think, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the next thing that Kobe Bryant does that's basketball related is be there when his statue is unveiled, because that's a no-brainer. He was there for Shaq's unveiling at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. The next thing that's going to happen, for sure, the next statue has to be Kobe. Before we get to our guest on this week's podcast, let me tell you who Friday's guest will be. His name is Blake J. Harris, and he's the author of Console Wars. He's writing a book right now on virtual reality. Console Wars is all about the heated battle in the 90s between Nintendo and Sega, particularly Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, that 16-bit battle. Every time you say Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, you can't help but think of that song. Biggie, right? I believe. Pretty sure. But yeah, it just like pops in your head. Anyway, and if I'm wrong, please tweet me at Arda Ocal TV and tell me I'm wrong and that I'm a moron for not knowing that reference. But anyhow, this is a fascinating conversation for two reasons. Number one, as you might remember, we did an Ice Madness poll. It was a tournament during the month of March to crown the greatest ice hockey video game of all time. You guys voted for NHL 94. Well, it just so happens that Blake J. Harris did a huge deep dive into the creation of NHL 94. So he talked to producers, creators, people at Electronic Arts, all about NHL 94. So he tells us all about that process, the player ratings. There's a funny story about a player being a little bit miffed about his player rating, a particular one in the game. He talks about why that game has stood the test of time, why 94, why that year in particular. And so we really dive deep into that, and he gives us a lot of great information about NHL 94, who you guys have crowned the greatest retro video game of all time. So there you go. And he's currently writing a book on virtual reality. We do talk about retro video gaming, so everything NES, Super Mario Brothers, anything Super Nintendo, anything Sega related. It was a big battle in the 90s. And so if you were ever interested in retro video games, you're going to love that conversation. But also, as a sports fan, this one is of peak interest because he's writing a book on virtual reality right now. And he believes, based on this conversation, you'll hear it on Friday, that VR will change the way we consume sports. And it's coming sooner than you think. So that conversation is happening on Friday. Let's talk about our awesome guest on Wednesday. I worked hard to get this guest, and I'm glad I did because this was a very fun conversation. If you are a fan of reality shows, in particular if you are a fan of The Bachelor, you will love this conversation with Bachelor Season 21 contestant Lacey Mark. Lacey is a New Jersey native, born and raised in Jersey, currently lives in New York City, and she was most recently a contestant on Season 21 of The Bachelor. So, how does that happen? How do you get selected for the show? How do you even apply for the show? What happens when you get selected? What do you need to keep secret? Where do you go for the show? How does the show get filmed? What happens? Do you interact with your castmates? What are they like? What is the reality show filming process like? We get a lot into the nuts and bolts of her time on The Bachelor. She was there for a few weeks, so we talk all about that. And it was great. I mean, and I admit this to her. I had not watched a single second of her season of The Bachelor. I actually maybe have watched maybe one or two episodes in the entire existence of The Bachelor. But you don't need to have watched the show in order to appreciate this conversation. Lacey has a really interesting story as well. You'll hear about what she studied in university, which is fascinating in itself. That should have been a whole other podcast that we may or may not do in the future. That was just amazing. And then her time in the corporate world and then transitioning into getting into the world of reality TV, really on a whim, almost on I guess revenge is the best way to put it. I mean, you're going to hear it in the podcast. It's really, really interesting stuff. And we also talk about her love for the New Jersey Devils, which is the perfect intersection to bring a guest like Lacey on this podcast, is that she has something super interesting in her life, and she also intersects with the world of sports, most notably the New Jersey Devils. She was at several games this season, very knowledgeable fan. Very passionate fan, and that passion was contagious. So it was a blast. It was a pleasure talking with Lacey Mark, and here it is, our conversation. I hope you guys enjoy all the fun nuts and bolts of learning about a reality show and getting to know our guest this week on the A-Pod, Lacey Mark. All right, so here we are at MSG Networks, the offices. This podcast, this interview, I've been looking forward to for a while, actually, because this is the kind of guest that I want to bring on the A-Pod. People who love hockey and who have a really interesting story outside of hockey. And Lacey Mark, who is sitting across from me right now, has a very interesting story that we're going to dive into. Particularly this last year, she found herself as a contestant on the latest season of The Bachelor. You may or may not know that program. I will admit to you right now, though, Lacey, I didn't watch a second of it.
Neither did I, so we're all good.
Excellent. Fantastic. I have a lot of questions, though, about reality TV in general, now that you have experienced reality TV at that top level. I have a lot of questions. So I'd love for this to go into two parts. Let's talk about the Bachelor side, and then let's talk about the hockey side. You are a New Jersey Devils fan.
I am.
And we'll get all into that because I want to hear about your New Jersey Devils fandom. But let's start. So you are local. You were born and raised in Jersey?
Born and raised in Jersey, in Montville, small suburb in North Jersey. Went to Syracuse for college, go Orange. And then found myself...
That happens a lot. Everyone who goes to Syracuse makes a point to mention they went to Syracuse, right? That's
yes,
the thing. Yeah.
You have to.
It's required? Is that like the first thing they tell you?
It's like the unexplained requirement of attending a university like that. It's like, great, attend our university, get your degree, make sure you tell everybody you went to our university.
What'd you take there?
I was actually a Middle Eastern government major.
Wow.
I was political science and Middle Eastern government.
Okay. So how do we solve the Palestine-Israel issue? How does that get solved? That's another podcast.
That's how much time do you have?
Yeah. I was gonna say, why did you choose that? What made you choose that?
So I was that girl that didn't really know what she wanted to do. I went into college as an English major, but like just English, not like anything else. So I was like, I just want to read books for a living. And my advisor was like, great. No, that's not a thing. You can't just read books for a living. She was like, take a bunch of different classes, see what happens. And I found myself taking a lot of poli-sci classes because they were just an arts and sciences requirement. Fell in love with it, and that's pretty much it.
So what did you think your job was going to be after graduation? What were you aiming for?
I thought I'd be saving the world. I thought I would be at the United Nations, or I'd be at some UN embassy. I live near all of them on the Upper East Side. I live like right next to one of the Kenyan embassies, all that stuff. But I graduated in 2013. So it was just kind of a weird time for politics in general, let alone trying to break into politics as a profession. So I kind of ended up, obviously the complete end of the spectrum of that, clearly not putting my government degree to use. But it was a lot of fun. I loved undergrad. I went to Syracuse when Syracuse was in their prime, Final Four, everything. It was awesome. My ex-boyfriend during my formal, my senior year, he wanted to go to the Final Four in Atlanta. And I was like, you can't go. So it's my sorority formal, you can't go. And I wouldn't let him go. And I think to this day, he never forgave me for it. But
that's awesome.
If you're listening, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that guy. Really sorry. I don't know if she'll make it up to you, but
probably not.
Yeah. Right. So you graduated. What did you do next? What was the first job?
I went into marketing in the beauty industry, and
how'd you make that shift?
I had a friend of a friend who got me an interview, and I was kind of like, sounds fun. Why not? Ended up making a career out of it. So I do digital marketing for beauty and lifestyle brands. Been doing that for the last 4 years. So it's fun. It's not what I went to school for. It's also completely unrelated to The Bachelor, but I enjoy it. So
take me into the moment where, were you a fan of The Bachelor before you became a contestant on The Bachelor?
No.
You weren't at all?
I was not. I had never watched it a day in my life. My roommate loves The Bachelor and would always watch it on Monday nights, and I would actually be like annoyed by it. I'd be like, ugh, The Bachelor, every time she had it on, and just go into my room and watch like Big Bang Theory reruns. That's one of my favorite shows. Can
you believe how strong the ratings are even this far into the series?
It's, oh my gosh, and they're getting a spin-off.
Yeah, it's going to be a hit, right?
I can't
instant.
Wait, Sheldon Cooper is my dude. Anybody who follows me on Snapchat, I do like a daily Sheldon Cooper snap. They know what's up.
Oh, really? I don't know that. I don't follow you on Snapchat. I guess I should. Where can people find you on Snapchat?
Lacey Morgan Mark, one word.
Okay, Lacey Morgan Mark, excellent. So you're big fan of Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Didn't watch The Bachelor at all.
No, so I recently so my roommate was like, I think you would really like it. Just watch an episode with me and see what happens.
Okay.
So this was Ben Higgins' season. So this was one season before mine. Season
20.
Season 20, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I started halfway through. I didn't even start from the beginning. So I maybe watched like 6 episodes before I applied for the show. And it actually became like my guilty pleasure. I was like, this is great. I was like, I love to watch it. I love to see like what the crazy girl is going to do next. Like, this is a lot of fun. A lot more fun than like I had built up in my head about the show being ridiculous. So I didn't actively try to get on the show. I had a boyfriend, and we were doing long distance Boston to New York, which is hard, but I mean, Boston to New York's not that bad. But
a 3-hour drive, right?
About, yeah. But what happened was he and I had gotten in a fight one day. So my mother loves this story. He and I had gotten in a fight one day, and instead of being an adult and having a face-to-face conversation with him and being like, this is what you did and this is why I'm upset, I applied for The Bachelor. I applied for The Bachelor.
Wait. I need to dissect that. So that was the course of action in your head to relieve the stress?
I was like, how can I piss him off and make him jealous?
Got it. Okay.
I'm going to apply for The Bachelor.
So did you tell him immediately? Or did you wait until you got accepted? Like, how did that happen?
So I put his work email address in on the application.
Okay. I get it now.
Hoping he would get the email, call me, and be like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing?
Wow, that's sinister.
I know. Egg on face, joke's on me. I spelled his email address wrong, so he never got it. So I had to physically call him and tell him about it. I called him that night after I hadn't heard from him for like 3 days, and I was like, "What? Did you get like a weird email today at work?" He's like, "I get weird emails every day." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Did you get an email from The Bachelor?" He was like, "Why would I get an email from The Bachelor?" And I was like, "Is your email blah, 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 blah?" He's like, "No." And I was like, "Oh, I did something to piss you off that I now have to tell you about." Yeah, we ended up breaking up for other reasons.
How long did the relationship last after this moment?
After this moment, about 4 months.
4 months still?
Yeah.
Wow. He forgave you for Bachelorgate.
He didn't care.
Oh, he didn't care?
Oh my gosh. He did not care about Bachelorgate at all. He really didn't care. He laughed. He thought it was funny.
it. He's like, whatever.
He was like, that's funny. He's like, why wouldn't you just have a conversation with me? I was like, because I thought it would be more fun to piss you off.
Okay, so then how did you get notified then?
So that was 2 seasons ago.
So you had applied and they didn't pick you.
And I never heard from them. But I wasn't actively trying to get on the show, so it didn't matter to me.
Right.
This past May.
What's the application like? So what kind of questions are they asking you?
So I think I don't know what kind of application I filled out. I filled out one I found on abc.com. It was like in 500 words or less, tell us why you want to be on the show and give us a headshot. So I think I don't even remember what I wrote. I wrote something about like how dating in New York is horrible, the men are terrible, like whether I was 25, like 24 at the time, I was like, whether they're 24 or 34, like they're the worst, I can't do it anymore. It was pretty much just like 500 words of me complaining about what dating in New York is like.
Fair enough, okay.
And I guess they kept it on file for future seasons. This past May, I'm sitting at my desk at work and my phone keeps going off and it's a Los Angeles number. I'm like, I don't know anyone in LA, I'll let it go to voicemail. And they kept leaving messages. So I stepped out of the office, I took the call. They were like, this is the ABC casting department, call us back immediately. And it took me a minute. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, ABC casting department, what on earth? And then it like clicked and I was like, oh, I applied to The Bachelor 2 years ago. That's definitely
so
what
this is 2 years later.
This is, or like a
wow.
year,
So they kept you on file, and then they went through. I imagine they keep everyone on file, and they just went through their list and said, "Hey, Lacey looks good. Let's give her a call."
Exactly.
Wow. Wow.
So I called them back, and I was like, "What exactly do you need from me?" And they were like, "Well, are you still single and interested?" I'm like, the irony is, I wasn't single when I applied for your show, but I am now. So like, let's discuss.
Wow. Okay.
So I made a home video, which is it's public. Like everybody knows that's the next step. They give you a bunch of questions to answer in your video. The approach I took was I invited a bunch of my guy friends over, one of which who knows how to use equipment and do all this stuff. ABC called me back, told me they loved it.
Okay.
The next step was like a series of photo shoots. There were about like 2 or 3 photo shoots I had to do for them. Then they flew me out to LA to meet with their staff, and then they sent me a contract. And I did not take it seriously at all up until I received a contract in the mail, and I'm like, now this is real. Like, I'm actually going to be on the show. It's not a joke anymore. And
what happened in Los Angeles? What was the meeting like in Los Angeles? So they fly you out. They're obviously serious about considering you.
Yeah.
What happens in their offices?
It's pretty much just like a bunch of on-camera tests, off-camera tests. It's more of them just getting to know you in person, because a lot of the stuff you do in the application process before that is, on the phone or on Skype or via email. So they just don't really get to interact with you face to face.
Okay.
So a lot of it is more just you're kind of hanging out.
Are you meeting
honestly.
like executives or like executive producers of the show and stuff like that?
You're meeting a lot of people.
Were you in a room with other possible contestants as well?
No. So they keep you all separate.
Gotcha.
So you don't meet. So the first night of the show, the very first night where all the girls are getting out of the limo and all of us are meeting each other for the first time is the most authentic night of the whole season. None of us have met before. None of us have met The Bachelor before, and vice versa. He's never met any of us, with the exception.
You didn't know who The Bachelor was until...
Well, we knew...
Did you know of him? Like, you saw pictures of him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, everybody knows who Nick V was. Nick has been around The Bachelor block a few times.
Like, he's a Bachelor star, right?
Yeah, this was his fourth season of the show.
Fourth season?
Yes.
Wow.
So he was on two seasons of Bachelorette and then a season of Bachelor in Paradise before he was The Bachelor.
So was he announced before you got the job? So you or got the casting? So you knew that he was going to be the guy that all the women were applying for? Okay.
But I had never watched his seasons. Okay. So, and I didn't want to. I mean, there's been like books written about him by Andy Dorfman, who was his Bachelorette, his first season. And I was like, I don't want to read any of it. I don't want to know. I just want to go into this with a clear head, a clean slate, and make my own decisions and opinions about him.
So, wait a minute, though. I thought the whole idea of being on The Bachelor was to get married. So that means obviously it didn't work out for him 3 times?
Yes. So his first 2 seasons of Bachelorette, he was the runner-up both times.
Oh, okay. So he didn't get...
he didn't get picked.
He didn't get picked both times.
Both times.
The third time...
He went to Bachelor in Paradise, which is a completely different premise.
Okay.
It's kind of like they take a bunch of previous Bachelor and Bachelorette contestants and send them all to Mexico together for a second chance at love. So you get to meet a lot more people.
Okay.
And he was in a relationship in Bachelor in Paradise, but they didn't get engaged. And shortly after, he was announced as The Bachelor.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. So he's a charismatic guy. People like him. He's
a people person.
He's
for
a
sure.
people person. Okay, he's a people person.
Yeah.
The Bachelor crew obviously likes him because they're bringing him on as the star of this season now.
Yes.
Okay, so you get cast. You go to ABC. You impress them. You wow them. They love your video. You get cast. So take me to the moment when the piece of mail comes. You open it, and there's your contract. What's that like?
So they actually called me on my parents' anniversary. I was home in Jersey. We were out to dinner celebrating. My parents have been together for like 32 years, so we were celebrating. It was a good night. My phone starts ringing, and it's the ABC offices, and I get really nervous. I step outside. I take the call. It was a congratulatory call. They were like, we just mailed you a contract. Congratulations. Nice. Yeah, I hope you're excited to meet Nick. I'm sure he's going to be excited to meet you. All the stuff. I go back into dinner. I was like, round of drinks on me for everybody. My parents were like, well, what? Like, we're already drinking. We're already celebrating. I was like, I finally got my answer back from ABC, and I got picked to be on The Bachelor. So their anniversary celebration kind of became my maybe I'm going to get married celebration.
So what did you like? What did you feel like? I mean, obviously, at the end of it all, the idea of being on the show is to fall in love with this guy and get married. Right. Like, did that dawn on you that, wow, this might lead me to marriage? Like,
yeah. I will say all of my friends are already married or engaged and have kids.
Isn't that the worst? Oh, man, mine too. I hate it.
I know, like I put out a tweet. How dare they? I put out a tweet the other day where I'm like, all my friends are married and engaged, and I'm lucky if I can remember to put pants on in the morning. Like, it's just, exactly. I'm the only single girl out of all my friends, which I mean, I'm okay with, but this would have made things a lot easier if it had worked out. Right. So I was ready. I mean, I've been ready. I'm a relationship girl. I'm not a girl who's single often. So this all kind of made sense. When my friends found out I was going to be on the show, they were like, this makes sense for you. Like, this is something you could totally do. This is a good step forward for you. So I was pretty excited, pretty optimistic.
Had your love life ever been public before this? Or is this like totally new territory for you?
Totally new territory. Okay. I was usually more of a person that kept to myself. I mean, like, all my social accounts were on private. I had a very close-knit group of friends, and like that was it. I wasn't a woman about town. I didn't I wasn't well connected. I didn't know people or anything like that. I was just your average New Yorker, just going to work and making a living and doing what she does every day. And then I got catapulted into this very, very public eye, and it was complete game changer. You go to sleep, you wake up the next day with 11,000 Instagram followers, and you don't know what to do with it. It's just, it goes from 6 to midnight really fast.
Right.
Really fast.
What was the first moment that you realized, wow, this is real? Like, the attention is real? What was the first moment?
I think when the Bachelor cast was announced, we were centerfold in People magazine and Life and Style magazine, and just any tabloid you could find that would have any Bachelor coverage. The cast photo was right in the middle, and I'm short, so they put me in the front row right next to Nick. So I'm literally at the forefront of every single photo, and I was like, wow. And people were just, taking pictures of it on their phone and sending it to me and being like, look, I found you. I was like, yeah, it wasn't hard to find me, was it?
Wow. And I bet that based on the optics of that, people were choosing you as an early favorite. If you're right beside him in that picture, people might be like, oh, look at this positioning here.
Yeah. I think a lot of people had me really high up in their Bachelor bracket because I was a normal person.
That's a thing, the Bachelor bracket?
Oh, yeah. It was through ESPN, I think.
Oh, man, that's hilarious. I love it.
Bachelor bracket.
Wow.
Big deal. But
I know, I've seen Bachelor coverage. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen Fox Sports do it. I've seen ESPN do it. The Bachelor podcasts.
There's Bachelor Fantasy.
Yeah.
There is. There's Bachelor
insane.
Fantasy League.
Wow. Well, it's been on for 21 years, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So that in itself is a coup, right?
Yeah,
that's
totally.
Amazing. Okay, so back to you. So, People Magazine comes out. When did shooting, how long before the show airs does shooting begin?
So we filmed September through November.
Okay.
And the show aired January 2nd.
Oh, that's a quick turnaround then.
Yeah, so they announced the cast in December, usually.
Right, okay.
If it changes depending on what their needs are. But so they announced the cast in December.
So by the announcement, all of the shooting has been done?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
So what, in the contract, like obviously you can't, any spoilers or anything like that, but what do they put in there that you cannot talk about at all, even to like your friends and family?
Everything.
Everything. So like anything that happens.
That is a pretty ironclad contract.
Right.
They know what
What's
they're doing.
the penalty? Like they're going to sue you for millions or something?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Okay. I was always curious, like what? Yeah. So you're handcuffed to.
Yeah.
Did you have a stock answer when people ask? Because undoubtedly people would ask you, it's like, come on, it's me. Like, just tell me something.
Yeah, I'd just be like, I can't talk about it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's like, pretty much the stipulation is you can talk about anything that is public. So anything that's already been talked about on air, anything that's already been talked about in other people's interviews and stuff. So anything that's public is fair game. Cool. But the contract is really more there just to help you understand what you're getting yourself into. So like it breaks down like different scenarios where you can be filmed, how the audio works, what type of audio they're going to record you, and when you're going to be recorded and when you're not going to be recorded. It's pretty much just so that.
When are you not recorded? I'm actually really curious if you're allowed to talk about that.
Yeah, no, I mean you're recorded.
If you're not, by any questions I ask, just say I can't talk about that.
You're recorded 90% of the time.
90% of the time.
90% of the time. Yeah, but you know that ahead. You know that going into it. There's no secrets. There's no surprises. They're really good at making sure you understand what you're doing before you sign that contract.
Was there any moment while you were being filmed that you were like, this is a little bit weird, but I knew it was going to happen, but this is still a little bit weird?
No, because you know what? The audio staff and the cameramen and stuff, they're really good at their job, so they're basically invisible. So you forget they're even there. And then it's like 2 hours later, you're like, oh crap, I said that on camera, because you didn't even realize that there was a camera on you.
Right.
But I was pretty good at not embarrassing myself on camera.
Fair. Okay. I was gonna say.
I was pretty aware of what I was doing when and how I was doing it.
So the cameras are literally there, like you said, 90% of the time, 24 hours a day, whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. That's.
I mean, there are
intense.
obviously certain scenarios they're not allowed to film you in.
Sure. Of course. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about when you board the plane. Now you get to where did you go?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles first. Okay. Yeah. So that's when filming begins. So you're out of the limousine. You're introduced on camera.
So I actually didn't get out of a limousine.
You didn't? Why not?
No, I was the girl that arrived on a camel.
What? Really?
So there's always this.
Did you choose this?
Yes.
That's awesome. You should have won.
I know.
You should have won based on that alone.
Well, after episode 1, everybody who didn't have me at the end, like winning it in their brackets, made me win in their brackets.
After week 1, you were the clear favorite based on the.
Well, yeah. So
awesome.
Everybody gets out of the limo and has to do something memorable. You know, Nick is meeting 30 women in one night. He's lucky if he remembers a name. Mm-hmm. So everybody always has to do something, an action or whatever, just so that he remembers who you are. So when he's going through his list before a rose ceremony, he says like, "Oh, I remember that girl," and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Girls had been planning it out for weeks, and I was just like. The night before, I was like, I have no idea. So I sat down with some of the producers and we came up with this idea where I would come in on a camel, and I mean, I have no filter and no shame. That's just how I am as a person. So I came up, I rode this camel, and I pull up in front of Nick, and it just kind of stuck. So like, I still like I've done a bunch of press interviews since then, and they're always like, so tell us about camel. I was like, do you want to know about anything else?
The camel
always comes down to the camel. The camel was very gentle.
Right.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And he remembered it for sure. I mean, even when we went back to Women Tell All, the reunion show a few weeks ago, they were still asking about the camel.
So that's your thing. You are
I'm camel
Bachelor
girl.
camel girl.
I'm camel girl. I'm okay with it.
You're okay with camel girl.
I knew what I was getting myself into.
You can make T-shirts now and sell them, right? Camel girl T-shirts.
I should do like a whole hump day thing.
In the theme of like a devil's logo or something. Camel girl. I don't know how you can incorporate that, but
Reebok, call me.
Yeah, that's right. Right. So okay. So how long were you there?
So I was there. So I was on the show for 3 episodes. So I was there for 3 weeks.
Okay,
roughly.
so 3 weeks of intense filming.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have contact with the outside world? Like, could you call your
No,
family? No, not at all.
No cell phones, no regular phones.
Okay.
No landlines. You're not even allowed to listen to the radio. They want you completely focused on what you're doing there.
No internet,
at the
nothing?
Bachelor House. Absolutely nothing.
Wow.
If like you need to phone home or someone needs to get in touch with you, you have to do it like through the production staff. It's like a whole big thing.
Did you go through withdrawals? I don't think I can go an hour without looking at my phone.
It's hard. Well, so at first it was kind of cleansing. At first I was like, I like this because I'm a girl. I'm always on my phone. I mean, like anyone who's listening to this knows I'm always on my phone. If I'm not answering you, it's probably because I'm ignoring you on purpose.
The read receipt, it's read but no response.
Exactly.
That's the
like
worst.
I'm always on my phone. Like there's no way I'm just not answering you. I'm not like I'm probably doing something. So at first it was kind of nice. At first I was like, I'm kind of disconnected. This is great. But then like after a while it starts to wear on you because I mean, I call my mom 15 times a day and I go on a date, I go home and I call my mom and tell her about it. And you can't really do that, you know? In Bachelor World, you go on a date and you come home and you tell the cameras about it instead of your parents. It's a completely different beast.
Right.
But you're so busy doing things and you're so focused on your relationship with Nick and your relationship with the girls and stuff, you don't really notice the fact that you don't have the internet or your phone or anything. I think maybe I noticed a few times just because it was election season. So I was constantly asking the staff, I'm like, what's going on? How's Hillary? How's this one?
Right. So what triggered that thought of mine was that there was that one scene, was it from Big Brother, where it was like a digital extra where they announced to the cast that Donald Trump had won, and they got their genuine reaction because they didn't know at all.
Yeah.
Like you, they were completely sheltered from the world, and so they made this special video where they announced that, the voice of God, like the producer said, all right, we're going to tell you who won the election, and they're all sitting on a couch.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's fascinating. Like they had no idea, and now they all find out at once.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. Man.
I mean, just because of my hobbies and what I studied in college and just my likes and dislikes, I was very, very into it. I was asking them every day. I'm like, so how did the debate go? How did this go? How did that go? And they're like, well, we can only tell you some things. And I was like, oh,
this was poor timing. How dare the Bachelor take you away from election season?
Right?
What was meeting the other girls like? Did you
it was
get along with
intimidating.
them?
A lot of these girls were like professional models or professional, like already public-facing people. And I was, again, your average Joe who found herself in this world that I never, ever thought I would be in. So I was extremely intimidated. I mean, I also had a very aggressive entrance. So I walked into the house and all these girls were like, what the hell was that? And I had to sit there and like, you want to make friends, but at the same time, you're all sharing a boyfriend. So there's like an awkward blurred line between the fact that like, you're making some of the best friends you're going to have for life. And I'm still best friends with some of these girls.
Wow.
But at the same time, they're going on a date with your boyfriend right after you are. So how do you really feel about your friendship when you know that, in a way, it's like your boyfriend's cheating on you with your best friend, but you know about it. So it gets really awkward really fast.
That's what a psychological experiment that is.
Who would ever willingly put themselves in that situation, right?
Televised for the entire country to see in the millions.
Right.
Wow. That's fascinating. That's like a case study.
Yeah.
And you're still friends with these people?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, out of the 30 women, that was the most contestants they've had at one time ever. And I think it's because it was because who the Bachelor was.
Okay.
But it's like he obviously has an immediate connection with some girls right off the bat. And then some girls he doesn't like at all. He sends those girls home the first night. So you don't really form those friendships until later on. And once you start forming those friendships, it's happening the same time as your relationship with him is picking up. So it's like, which do I focus on more? My best girlfriend who like I want to go hang out with, or my boyfriend who I also want to go hang out with? It's a really sick mind game.
So you were eliminated in the third week. How much time did you have with Nick?
So I ended up on one group date with Nick.
It starts with group dates?
Group dates.
So you don't even get a solo date?
Some people do.
Some people do.
Some people do, and those
so
people
you were
who do
clumped
are very
into
lucky.
a group, and you had to have a group. How many people were in the group?
12. I went on a date with 12 women.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. So it's 12.
How does you know what? I want to ask Nick, how do you even handle that? Like
he's gone on record saying, you know, it's as stressful as it is for us. Imagine being him, being on a first date with 12 women, probably not even remembering half of our names. Like, think about what it's like for him.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's stressful enough to be on an app and swiping left and right on several people. Imagine having 12 human beings in front of you and trying to conduct a date
trying to
figure
divide
out.
the time between all of them. And
Oh,
there's always
man.
there's always a catch too. Each group date is an activity where it's going to be physically impossible for Nick to divide his time equally amongst 7 women. So my date was wedding themed. And
That's fast.
it was a wedding themed photo shoot.
Oh man.
It was a nightmare.
Did you get a solo picture at least? No.
So here's the thing.
Okay, please tell me.
So I ended up on this date. There were 12 of us. We show up. We get to this beautiful, beautiful house in the Hollywood Hills. And there's a photographer, and there's a bunch of like themed wedding dresses in front of us. And we get there, and the photographer's telling us we're doing wedding shoots today. Nick is the groom, and you guys are the brides. And I'm standing there, and I'm counting the dresses. I'm like, there are only 8 dresses here. And there are 12 women on this date.
Shady.
So they pass out the 8 dresses, and I don't get one. And I was like, in my head at that point, I knew. I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen. I was like, I'm going to have to be a bridesmaid for one of these girls. And they whip out a second rack of dresses that was like hiding in the back with these heinous bridesmaids dresses. And I get handed the traditional bridesmaid's dress, which is like, I'm so sorry that many satin factories had to die for me to look that ridiculous on television. It was like the worst purple satin dress I've ever put on my body. And I had to be a bridesmaid for one of the other girls, so I had to facilitate their wedding with Nick. And it was not fun.
That sounds like an awful date.
It's a terrible, terrible first date. And like, that's actually an insecurity of mine too. So, I mean, I've been a bridesmaid, all my friends are married and whatever. And I'm like, when do I get to be the bride? It was
Did you at least get to ride the camel in that segment?
No, they only gave me the camel for one night.
The camel rental was one night
It
only.
was one night
Camel's
only.
back to
Kamala Anderson went back to her
Kamala
farm after
Anderson.
that.
I like that. That's the second T-shirt. When Reebok calls you, the second T-shirt, Kamala Anderson.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have this awful date experience.
Mm-hmm.
Did you going into your elimination? Did you know was the writing on the wall? Did you have a feeling? What was that like?
I didn't up until a certain point. So I thought my relationship with Nick was going really well.
Okay.
And then before every rose ceremony, there's a cocktail party. So I'm at the cocktail party, and I'm sitting at my alone time with Nick, and we had a significant amount of alone time compared to what some other girls had gotten that night. And we're sitting there, and he's telling me about his date with another girl. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this has only ever happened with my guy friends. So he must be friend zoning me right now, and this is what's going on. If a guy's talking to you about another girl, he's not into you, right?
Very good rule.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
So I'm going into the rose ceremony, and I'm like, well, our relationship was great. Like, he kissed me. It was wonderful. It was great. It was a lot of fun. But at the same time, he also was talking to me about other girls. So I'm like, maybe I'm getting the boot tonight. I don't really know what's going on. We go into the rose ceremony. Time is dragging on, and they're long, the rose ceremonies. And girl after girl after girl is getting a rose, and my name is not getting called. So once we were by the end, once there were like 4 or 5 girls left who had gotten roses, I was like, I think I might be going home tonight. But I was okay with it because I think it's okay for him to send me home because he just wants to be my friend versus like him hating me.
Right. Are you still friends with him today?
I'm not.
You're not friends
Not
with
for
him?
any reason.
Oh,
We're just not.
He's busy planning his next season.
He's
of The
busy
Bachelor.
planning his wedding, probably.
Right, his wedding. Yeah, exactly. Oh, so they are going to get married, whoever won?
They're engaged.
They're engaged.
Yeah,
and
Nick and Vanessa are engaged.
What's you know what I'd like to know? I should have researched this myself. What's the percentage of winners that they stay married from the beginning?
I think it's about half.
About half? Okay.
Which is like,
Which
I mean,
is
it's
fair.
that's
no
like different than the average divorce rate.
Oh, yeah, totally. I tell this story all the time. So I used to DJ weddings in my 20s, and for about 6 or 7 years. The last season, I DJ'd weddings for 3 different brides that I had also DJ'd their first wedding. Yeah. So it's not
That's
uncommon.
great.
Yeah. It's like, why would you bring the DJ back? Why would you have anything the same? I was like,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm giving you a second time discount or anything like that. It's like, it's the same rate.
You were just so good at
Apparently.
it the first time. They needed to have you the second
Gee,
time.
thanks. Yeah, imagine like the first dance is the same song and everything. That'd be the weirdest thing.
That would just be bad karma. That's just bad karma.
Right. So you get eliminated. Tell me about from that moment to when you get home. What happens? Because the cameras aren't always on you. So you
Right.
get eliminated, then what happens?
So you do your exit interview.
Okay.
Mine didn't get aired. I think maybe it's because I wasn't crying. Because I really wasn't that upset.
Okay.
I was like, I hate Los Angeles.
You were too normal for the show.
I was too normal, and I hated living in Los Angeles. I'm a New Yorker. Jersey, then New York. I hated LA. It's just like the speed of everything. Everyone's too nice. I'm so used to like being shoved in the subway. Like it wasn't for me. I was so ready to get back to New York, and ready to just kind of continue on with life. I was like, you know what? I tried something new. It was the only avenue I hadn't taken in the dating world. I mean, I've done everything. I've done dating apps. I've done speed dating. I've gone on blind dates. This was the only thing I hadn't done. So I'm like, I'm glad I tried it. Didn't work out. I'm ready to go home. Like, give me my cell phone back. I want to call my mom.
Do they? So as soon as you get eliminated, everything comes back to you. You get your phone back.
Yeah, they book you a flight home almost immediately.
How many missed text messages did you have on your phone?
Hundreds.
Hundreds of
Well,
messages?
because I didn't tell anyone I was leaving because I wasn't allowed to. So I
Right.
had a lot of people texting me saying, like, where are you? What's going on? And I happened to have
Oh,
been...
people genuinely concerned, like as
Yeah.
if you fell off the face
I
of
was
the
shocked. I was like, oh my God, you're a real friend.
earth. That's awesome. Okay. But you were allowed to tell your family that you were
Yes.
going to do this.
Yes. Mhm.
But that's
there
it.
was like a few people I was allowed to share with.
Okay.
But
So you get your phone.
I get my phone back. I turn it back on. It's just pure insanity. I also happen to have been one of the first leaks from before they had released the cast.
Oh.
I was one of the first people that got leaked on the internet. So a lot of my friends had seen it, and a lot of the text messages were like that. They were like, why didn't you tell me? Oh my God, like, where are you? Are you dating Nick right now? Like, what is happening? And I was like, I can't tell you anything. You're going to have to wait until January.
Okay. So you get your phone, and then like the next day or that night, you get on a plane and you go home.
Yeah, so and the rose ceremonies last all night. So
Okay.
I got my phone back and everything at about 5 a.m. and my flight was at 3 in the afternoon the next day.
And then when you
Well,
get
technically
home,
the same day, but
Okay. So then that begins the whole silence phase.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Not allowed to talk about anything with anyone because nothing has been aired. And
Do you go back to work the next day? Like, what happens when you get home?
yeah, I actually happen to have left my job for the show,
Okay.
but you don't have to. That's like a common misconception. That's a question I get asked a lot. You do not have to leave your job for the show. It was just opportune for me at that point in time to leave my job for the show, so I did.
Okay.
So I got back, and I was kind of just normalizing. You know, it's really mentally taxing to put yourself in a situation like that, so I kind of just needed a month to become a human again, to get back to myself.
Right.
So I kind of went into hiding for a little bit. I spent a lot of time at my parents in Jersey. My roommate was like, when are you coming home? I miss you.
Because at this point, it's not announced yet. You're leaked, so like
Right.
diehards will know that you're on the show.
Yes.
But the casual fan doesn't know yet because you haven't been announced officially.
Exactly.
But you've already filmed it, so you're keeping this secret.
Right.
And now you're transitioning back to normal life.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then, you know, the cast gets released and that's when the influx starts immediately. People asking if they can pay you to do stuff on Instagram. People, like, random people you would never expect to follow you.
So
start
I want to
following
talk
you,
about
and-
that. So how does life change once you become a member of this cast? It's public now. You have all
Yeah.
these new Instagram followers. Like, how does your life change now that you are seen as a reality show star?
It has its ups and its downs. It's good in the sense that, you know what, you have a lot more opportunities to make money in different ways, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, whoever thought you never think you're going to find yourself in the situation where someone's going to pay you to wear a pair of sunglasses on Instagram, but it happens. It does happen.
So do they find you, or is there agencies for this? Like,
Both.
There's both. Okay.
Both, yeah. So I've had people reach out to me just on their own. I've had people reach out to me through agencies and all that different type of stuff.
Okay.
But for me, the biggest problem is going out, like, nightlife in New York. It's hard to, like, go out and, like, be silly and do silly things with your friends because people are constantly watching you. People are taking your picture. People are asking you for pictures. So whereas like maybe on a Saturday night, I would go to a club and like stay out until 4 a.m. It's harder to do that because you have more eyes on you. So
Does that still happen? Like, is there like paparazzi or people like that sort of
there
monitoring?
Are definitely people who come up to you at bars and want to take pictures of you, and it really depends. I mean, I've gone. So
you're getting recognized. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So actually, when this was announced and you got off the show, people are just assuming, well, she's single. Like, does your DMs explode? Like, what happens?
No idea. No idea. The amount of direct messages I received was insane. Like, I couldn't even answer them all. And after I got involved with Barstool too, it was even tripled the amount of people.
Yeah, Barstool has like passionate fans.
Young people too. I have like 19-year-olds and like even 15-year-olds messaging me on Instagram. I'm like, dude, I'm almost 27.
Wow. Well, yeah, it's a young demographic. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy.
A lot of people you wouldn't expect too. And like it's fascinating how this all happens. It's fascinating.
Yeah, totally.
I figured, I'm only on 3 episodes of the show. I'm gonna fall by the wayside. People aren't gonna know me. Not gonna be a huge thing. But then after Women Tell All aired, I got a lot of FaceTime on Women Tell All. Don't know why or how, but I did. So after Women Tell All, I got a lot more of this.
Did you ride the camel into Women Tell All?
I asked them. They said no.
Really? What a missed opportunity that is.
I said to them, I was like, you totally should have had me arrive to Women Tell All on a camel. They were like, it was expensive enough for one night. We're not doing it again. I was like, okay.
So you get that, and now so this season is over. You still have that. Like, there's still opportunities that are coming up.
Yeah, I
based
still have
on
the
it.
momentum.
Yeah, the momentum.
Yeah, I am trying to keep a little bit of a low profile with that type of stuff. I don't want to become that girl that's just hawking products at you on Instagram.
Right.
So I haven't been doing that much of it. I do have some stuff maybe coming up soon that you'll find out about. But
secrets. Do you, is this it for you and reality TV? Like, would you approach that avenue again, or?
I would definitely entertain the idea of Bachelor in Paradise if they'll have me.
Okay.
Because just again, it's another opportunity for me to find a great boyfriend, because I haven't had great boyfriends in the past.
So that, I guess that's my question. Is it in the quest of love, or is it the attention of being on a big wide platform like that?
For me, it's I want to find a boyfriend, and this is another way for me to do that.
Got it. Okay.
It's no different than going on a bad Bumble date. To be honest, it's just, the only difference is this one's televised.
Right.
It's
gotcha.
to me it seems the same.
What about like if The Amazing Race said, "Hey, we want you to be a contestant"?
No, I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do Amazing. Like it would.
I'm
you would
like also
stick to
not
the
physically
love.
fit enough to do Amazing Race.
All right, fair enough.
People ask me, they're like,
what?
what do you do like for fitness? Do you go to the gym? I was like, I change the channel and I eat nachos. That's about it.
That's the best. That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So what, career-wise, are you back in the marketing field? Like what?
Yes.
What's the next? Okay, so you're working in marketing again.
Yes. So I'm like still doing like my normal, regular working life that I was doing before. We'll see what happens if they approach me for Bachelor in Paradise.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm just a regular girl in New York trying to pay her rent.
What would the dream gig be? What would, like, if you can parlay this into something that would be dream-worthy, what would it be?
I don't think I would parlay it at all.
No?
I think it's something I did. It's something that's fun. It's something that's part of my personal story. If I end up married out of it, great. If I don't, back to dating, schmoes from the internet on New York.
Back to the original application and what that was like, and now I'm back to, oh boy. I've been out of the game so long, so I don't know, but what's like the good dating app these days?
Oh, God, none of them are good.
None of them? I met my girlfriend off of Hinge. We met on Hinge, and I thought that was like the most monogamy-focused app that was free. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. At the time, this was a year ago, so it's like, at the time, that was the most monogamy-focused one.
I've been using Bumble a lot.
Okay.
I met my ex on Bumble, so I have a little bit of faith in it. I think maybe I'm a little bit jaded now, where I just don't believe in dating in New York at all.
Okay.
Because for me, it's just like one crap storm after the next. So I'm just like, I'm out. I'm done. Like, see you never.
So this is my segue into the hockey conversation, because my first introduction to you was here is a Bachelor contestant, but she's wearing a New Jersey Devils hat.
Yes.
So that was the first thing I saw, and I was like, this is really cool. First of all, she's a hockey fan. Second of all, she's a fan of a local team, which is even better.
Yeah.
And so that's how I discovered you. And then that's when I slid into your DMs as well. And I said, hey, do you want to come on my podcast?
Guys, Arda totally slid into my DMs.
I did, 100%. I totally did. I totally admit it. And I was like, hey, and I did twice or three times. I was like, I got to convince convince Lacey to come on my podcast. So I was persistent.
I listened to an episode. I'm like, yeah, I'm down. This is cool.
Yes. So did you wear any Devil stuff on the show? Did they let you?
We're not allowed to wear logos.
Not allowed to wear any logos at all.
Not allowed to wear any logos at all. So no.
I'm just going to assume that you tried. I'm just going to assume that you had like a suitcase full of Devil stuff.
I did.
Yeah.
I
jersey,
did. They don't
everything.
film us when we're sleeping. So I wore like my Devil sleeping shirts.
And then hopefully like you just walk out one day. Oh, I'm sorry. Oops, logos. Oops.
That actually happened once. I did an interview in a Calvin Klein top, and like even the production staff, like none of us realized it. And then they were going through the footage. They're like, we have to redo an interview and you need to wear a different top. And I was like, oh, right, logos.
Right. Okay, so last question about that. How many redos are there on a reality show like that?
Not that many.
Not that many.
They want to, usually the first thing you're going to say is the first thing that's on your mind, and that's what they want. They don't want it to seem like it's rehearsed or scripted or anything like that. So the only redo they'll do is a situation like that if there's like a mistake in the filming. But other than that, like say whatever you want, say whatever you're feeling. If you're going to curse, we'll bleep it out. Like they want to keep it natural.
Okay, fair enough. So growing up in New Jersey,
yes.
You discovered the Devils. You are a Devils fan. Tell me your first memory of discovering and your first memory of the Devils.
So actually, Bruce Driver is actually from my town.
Oh, wow, cool.
So I got exposed to the Devils from Bruce Driver coming to career day at elementary school.
Really?
Yeah.
Was his kid in the class or something like
yeah,
that?
His son Dylan went to my school for a little bit.
Wow.
But I didn't know anything about it. I was like, what's hockey? Who are the New Jersey Devils? I was like 5. Bruce, we're going way back.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really a fan until later in life. I grew up in a household where it's all girls, myself, my sister, my dad, my mom. And my dad was not really that big of a sports guy.
Okay.
He's super into golf. He's super into bowling. He watches football every now and then, but hockey wasn't really a household staple. So what happened was my best friend, his name is Greg, always says I have to give him credit for this, and he does deserve the credit, took me to my very first hockey game in 2012, right before the lockout.
Okay.
And it was a Devils Avalanche game, and I had no idea what was going on. I said to him, he's like, do you want to come to this game? I was like, listen, I'm going to have no idea what's going on. You're going to have to explain everything to me. Are you sure you still want to take me? Because you're not going to be able to enjoy yourself. And he was like, yes. He's like, it was a big part of his life, and he wanted to share it with me. So he's been a fan for a while. So he's like, I want you to get involved in this. I really think you're going to like it. I was like, okay, done. Let's go. If we go to the game, within the first 3 minutes, there's a fight, and there's blood on it. And it, like blood on the ice fight, like very serious. And I stand up, and I'm watching, and my eyes are like huge. And I'm like, Greg, aren't they going to stop it? And he's like, that's not how it works in hockey. And I was like, I love this sport. And that's what I fell in love with hockey.
You've been hooked ever since. That's awesome.
That's all it took. So I started, doing my research, just like learning about the sport and asking him a ton of questions. He wanted to kill me by the end of the season. He was like, stop asking me questions, just Google it. And I became I really liked it. I became a really big fan. He started taking me to more games. I started going to more games on my own. And I started, luckily we were in the Stanley Cup that year. So it was a really exciting year.
It was a good time to be a fan, I was going to say.
It was a really good year to get involved in New Jersey Devils hockey until Game 6.
Still a good run, though, to the finals. It's a greght run. That's a terrific run, right?
It was a good year for this to happen. So now, I've gone to way more games than I thought I ever would. I've gotten really involved in the team, keeping track of players and all this stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm really sad it's over. I'm like, what am I going to do now on weeknights? Now I have to actually socialize.
Yeah, no kidding. And watch the playoffs, I guess. But when your team's on the playoffs.
I've been watching some of the playoffs, but I'm just like, Devils aren't in it. I'm not interested.
So you're committed to the rebuild. Like, you're not going to bandwagon jump to any other team. You are Devils to the core.
Yeah, you know what?
Very cool.
Again,
Very
born
cool.
and raised in Jersey.
I respect that.
Born and raised in Jersey. It's the only team we have. Brooklyn took the Nets from us. So it's really all Jersey has when it comes to sports.
And I know they're very proud of that. Like, in talking with people in the front office, they're extremely proud of the fact that they have the word New Jersey, despite the fact that a lot of New York teams play in New Jersey.
Right? That's
NFL.
That's the worst part. Like, you're playing in Jersey and you're calling yourself a New York team? Come on.
Right? As a person who was born and raised in Jersey.
It grinds my gears.
Yeah, as it should. As it should. And I have to say, of the three arenas, now Madison Square Garden, I get it. It's the world's most famous arena. Everybody knows about it. But I will say on record, the Prudential Center is the most comfortable experience for a fan.
It is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, and I've gotten to see a bunch of different parts of Prudential Center. I mean, my friend Greg, who started me on all this, is a season ticket holder. And he would sit in, like, the Jeep Frontier section. So I had never gone to a game in bad seats, ever.
That's awesome.
I started out there, then recently I've been seated, you know, like in the Platinum Lounge area. I've been in suites. I've been in like a bunch of different parts of Prudential, and every single part is just as good as the next. It's fun. The energy is high.
Especially the rivalry nights. I know that you and I were both in the building for the last home game. You were there when they played the Islanders, the last home game at Prudential Center, and it was a ruckus crowd, man. Yeah,
you know, and I was expecting it to be mostly Islanders territory. I was expecting to walk in and just see a ton of the white and blue, and I didn't. It was mostly Devils fans coming out and giving crap to the Islanders until they beat us. But
I will give credit to the Islanders fans, because that was the whole Patrick Elias, Patty's last lap.
Yes.
And even during the ceremony, that was the cutest moment. His daughters are dropping the puck for the ceremony.
I may or may not have shed a tear.
Oh, it was amazing. Well, it lined up perfectly because Steven Gianta's on the Islanders, and he's like a longtime Devil. He's taking the face off. They have this big, like, how you doing, bro, hug, right? But even Islanders fans were standing up and cheering, which I give them credit for, because they don't have to do that.
Right.
This is a Devil's moment, but even then we're like, yeah, we respect this.
I know. When I saw that was happening, when I saw all that Patty's last lap stuff happening, I was like, I have to go to this game, come hell or high water. I will be there. Yeah. And like it was an amazing experience being at that game.
So tell me, you work in marketing now. Would you ever like entertain a job in the NHL or with the Devils? Like, would that ever be something you'd want to do?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
that would be like. I mean, you know, everyone
for
always
any Devils
says,
people that are listening.
Yeah, hey guys. They always say, love what you do, and you'll never work a day in your life. That's like,
Amen.
That's what that would be like. You know, for me now, I'm working now. I don't have the dream job. I have a great job. I love my job. I love my people. I love everything. But that would be kind of cool for sure.
Not trying to stir the pot. I'm just putting thoughts in the universe is what I'm doing. Who would you be upset if they got traded from the Devils? Who would be crushing? Because the expansion draft is coming.
I know.
Everyone is stressing out.
I know.
Right?
I definitely want to see us keep O'Bennett around.
Yep.
For sure. Mm-hmm. For sure. I think it's definitely worth keeping Kincaid. I think he had a good season. I think he made up for some things that he needed to, for sure. I know a lot of people are saying bring Wedgwood up, but I don't know if that's actually a good idea. I don't know about that one. That's definitely something I've seen a lot of chatter about on Twitter.
There were a lot of Albany Devils by the end of the season that were competing for jobs.
Yeah.
Which was great to see. Like, at one point, I think there was like 9 of them on the active roster.
I know.
Which was insane.
And that was new for me, because as like only being a fan since 2012, it's something I hadn't really experienced yet. So that was like another thing for me to look into, and another aspect of hockey for me to get interested in, and started looking into all this stuff in Albany and like what's going on in Albany today, like who's going to come up and play this game, who's injured and who's taking whose spot. So that was actually really fun for me this season, and I really liked that. But I think we got to keep Bennett. Don't let that man go. Don't let him go.
Keep Bennett. Hashtag keep Bennett. Yeah. Actually, that seems like too much of a generic hashtag. I feel like that's been used somewhere.
We'll work on it.
Yeah, we'll work. That's right. We'll have a social media meeting.
I'll get like my digital marketing brain in on it, and we'll come up with the hashtag to keep them around.
That's awesome. So last question for you. Just because you have been in this reality world, what is like a misconception about people who've been on reality shows that you'd like to completely dispel right now? Is there anything that people?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that?
We're all brainless robots, and we're just doing things to get famous and doing things because the producers tell us to. I mean, listen, regular girl from had a regular upbringing. I mean, I'm a nerd to the core. I studied something very nerdy in college. People ask me what I do for fun. I read a ton. It's one of my favorite things to do. I read a lot of nonfiction. I'm a smart girl. So I think that's a common misconception, is people see other people do ridiculous things on reality television and they lump us all together. But there's a lot more to us than that. I mean, whether it's hockey or something else. We all have a lot of different interests other than just like going on TV and getting famous.
Right.
That's just a residual effect that's going to happen no matter what our motives are. So.
Well, I'm pretty sure this podcast went a long way into dispelling that. If anyone was listening to this podcast thinking that, I don't think they think that anymore.
Woo.
Hashtag keep Bennett. But we're going to have that meeting.
Keep Bennett.
Thanks for your time, Lacey.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Wow, what a great conversation. I had such a blast talking with Lacey, podcasting with Lacey, and I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation as well. Definitely find her on social media, and let's hope she ends up on Bachelor Paradise. That would be very fun to watch. And hopefully we put out those good vibes and positive thoughts, and we'll see her on a future season of Bachelor Paradise. That would be cool. So thank you very much for checking out the A-Pod. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget, there will be a bonus episode on Friday. At this point, it's almost becoming a regular Friday episode. I haven't quite pulled the trigger on that just yet, so we're going to keep calling them Friday bonus episodes. That is with Blake J. Harris. He is the author of Console Wars, a great book about the battle between Sega Genesis and Nintendo. Sega and Nintendo, those battles. We talk about NHL 94, the winner of the Ice Madness tournament in March that we put on, as well as virtual reality changing our sports viewing habits and where that is all going and how it's way sooner than we all think. So definitely check out that podcast on Friday. Check out our archives. We have a lot of great conversations. The keeper of the cup, Phil Pritchard, was a former guest. We talk all about the Stanley Cup, the trophy, the typos, where it's been, everything. It is a lot of fun, that conversation. As well, Robert Karpelis, who is a lawyer with the Florida Panthers. He moonlights as one of the best parody accounts on the internet, bar none, period. That was a great convo as well. Check out the archives. Go on iTunes, subscribe there, msgnetworks.com. Monday's Arda's Words on a Blog was a love letter to the great fan bases in the playoffs, 4 in particular, and I hope you enjoy that as well. And thank you very much for listening. That's it for me. That's it for the A-Pod this week. Until Friday, so a couple days. Have a great couple days, everyone. I would say week, but it's just going to be a couple days. Have a great couple days.